Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose, and the power of Xbox Game Pass just continues on. Now, one big question that fans constantly have is whether or not these day one releases for Xbox Game Pass are actually successful or not. How are these developers actually making any money? But in the past, we've seen time and time again that these smaller independent games are having a lot of success launching day one into Xbox Game Pass. Well, it looks like that may not just be exclusive to independent games, but also big AAA games, and I'll kind of explain why here in just a bit. Now, also a couple very notable games might be heading over to PC soon, and this includes a highly requested remaster as well as a current PlayStation exclusive, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. First, though, let's start this video off with a couple of different Nintendo-related games, and both of these games are linked to a pretty prominent anniversary in 2021. First up, you have Pokemon's 25th anniversary, and we've seen a lot of different games released this year to celebrate the anniversary for one of the biggest franchises to ever exist. And you know what? I think they've done a really good job with the Pokemon anniversary so far. We got new Pokemon Snap, which was just absolutely excellent. We're going to get that Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remake later in the year. And then early in 2021, we're also going to be getting Pokemon Legends Arceus. So we already have 3 big Pokemon experiences throughout the next year, but that's not quite everything. We also have Pokemon Unite, which is an interesting game for multiple reasons. This is a Pokemon MOBA game, which is actually going to be available on both the Nintendo Switch as well as mobile devices. The initial trailer for this game did receive a lot of criticism for being a mobile-style game, but you know what? I actually think the combination of Pokemon with MOBA could turn out to be a pretty decent experience. I'll at least give this one a try, and plus, MOBA-type games are actually quietly massive. I know console players aren't big into MOBA experiences, but MOBAs are big in a lot of countries. They're big on PC, and they're also big on mobile phones, so this really is a big genre. It's just not big in the console space. Nonetheless, Pokemon Unite is set to release on the Nintendo Switch, and in fact, we just got a release window for this July. As for mobile devices, it'll be set for September, but you know, this is just another Pokemon experience for 2021. I don't know exactly how this one will turn out per se, but I think it's intriguing, and I'll at least give this one a try. And if you are a Pokemon fan, you might want to check this one out this July on the Nintendo Switch or September on mobile devices instead. Now, as for this other Nintendo-related game, we need to talk about Metroid Dread yet again. I know we've talked a lot about this game in the last week, but there has been this constant question when it comes to Metroid Dread on how much it should be worth. Now, I'm just going to go and say that I think $60 is perfectly fine for a game like this because, well, Metroid is an amazing franchise. I expect this game to be amazing, and, well, it looks amazing. So I'm okay with the $60 price tag. With that said, I know price with any type of game is always going to be subjective, and if you just want to wait for reviews and see how this game turns out before you buy it, I completely understand. But with that said, universally, Metroid is not really known to be a big-time seller. Typically, it doesn't sell as many copies as something like, let's say, Mario, Pokemon, or Zelda. This is not that type of franchise for Nintendo. It's just a very high-quality franchise. But interestingly enough, Metroid Dread is drawing a lot of attention this time, and this could be that Switch effect. It just seems like the Nintendo Switch has been massive for a lot of their franchises, and we might see Metroid Dread majorly benefit from that Switch effect. In fact, Metroid Dread, since first being announced, has already topped the Amazon's best sellers chart, which is just fantastic news. And even though that's just the United States, it's also having success in multiple countries across the world over on Amazon. So that is a great sign that Metroid Dread will have a lot of success. I'm hoping that Metroid Dread becomes the best-selling Metroid of all time, because the future of this franchise, the future of the 2D games, might majorly depend on Metroid Dread. So I'm really hoping this becomes a huge success so we see more 2D Metroid games in the future. With that said, though, there definitely seems to be some excitement with this game, whether that be with the game itself. The Metroid amiibo has been selling out like crazy fast. It's very hard to get that thing. And then, the collector edition, that was another hot commodity with it selling out almost immediately at multiple retailers. So everything's pointing in the right direction, and I just hope all this translates into a very successful launch for Metroid Dread. Next up, let's talk about a really weird speculative rumor that's going around right now, and that's with Blue Box Game Studios. Now, you may have heard about this already, but there's this big conspiracy theory that Blue Box Game Studios is actually Hideo Kojima. So this rumor first started a couple months ago when Abandoned was teased for the PlayStation 5. And it's like some kind of horror-looking game, and a lot of people started to put things together thinking that maybe this was actually developed by Hideo Kojima. And that's not quite as far-fetched as you would think, because Hideo Kojima has actually done something very similar to this before. The way he announced Metal Gear Solid 5 was by making a fake company. So could he possibly do something like that again? Well, maybe, maybe not. But interestingly enough, the developer actually came out and said that this game, Abandoned, has nothing to do with Hideo Kojima. He confirmed that very quick 2 months ago. But now the rumors are back and even stronger this time. And the reason for that is because of a recent tweet made by Blue Box Studios. Blue Box Game Studios posted this on Twitter. Guess the name. Abandoned equals first letter S, last letter L. Reveal closing in ... PlayStation 5 exclusive. And yeah, this immediately drew a lot of attention because, there was already some belief that this is possibly Hideo Kojima games. And with this having the first letter of S and last letter L, could this possibly be Silent Hill? Silent Hill has been rumored for such a long time. So yeah, things are getting really out of control by this point, and there's now a whole huge thread on why this game is actually developed by Hideo Kojima, and it is Silent Hill. And I'm not going to get into all the reasons as why. You can go over on Twitter and you can see this, but just kind of scanning through this, you can see that there are a lot of things that are kind of strange with this Blue Box company and game itself. I mean, just kind of scanning through this big Reddit thread, there are no saved trademarks for Blue Box Game Studios, but their trailer claims they do. Blue Box Game Studios' YouTube banner is a bunch of hills, which could signify it is, after all, related to Silent Hills. The Blue Box Game Studios logo is basically PlayStation Studios logo colors inverted. Employees at company LinkedIn profile uses stock photos. So there's a lot of things here that makes it seem like, yeah, maybe this actually could be something related to Hideo Kojima. But once again, the developer of Blue Box has come out and said that this game has nothing to do with Hideo Kojima. So you have the developer saying this stuff, and then you have all these conspiracy theories from the fans. So yeah, it's getting pretty chaotic. But the reason we're actually talking about this today is not because the speculation, but instead the reason we're talking about this is because if you've heard about this game, what reportedly a PlayStation 5 app and trailer will be released on Tuesday, and then Jeff Keighley is going to share some stuff on his social media about Abandon. So maybe with that stuff being revealed, the speculation might then end, and it'll either confirm or debunk all of this stuff. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait until Tuesday, but regardless of what happens, it's been really interesting following this story. This is one of the craziest stories I've seen in a while in gaming. And if you do want to read through the conspiracy theory, I will leave a link in the description below. And for that matter, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this game is actually related to Hideo Kojima or not? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about Xbox Game Pass, though, because, there's always that discussion about day one games releasing in a Game Pass. Are these games actually worth it for third-party developers in specific to make? Now, we've seen smaller independent games have success launching their games into Xbox Game Pass. We've seen developers talk about that in the past. Descenders had a ton of success in Xbox Game Pass. That's why they keep renewing their contract with Xbox to stay in Xbox Game Pass. But interestingly enough, it looks like Outriders, that big AAA Square Enix game that launched into Game Pass just a few months ago had a huge amount of success, and they do attribute some of that to Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, so check this out. Square Enix had this to say. In addition, we have been pleasantly surprised as the digital sales ratio for the title have been very high, and the number of active users has also beaten our expectations. We believe that our decision to make Outriders available with Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass as soon as the title launched also worked in our favor. So there you have it. You heard this directly from Square Enix. They believe that launching into Xbox Game Pass did have an effect on this game's user base, and it paid off in the long run. And I've kind of talked about this when it first launched, but it was pretty clear that this game was very successful when it first launched, not just on Xbox, I might add. It was also very successful on places like Steam. And as I mentioned back then, if you noticed, when this game was first announced for Xbox Game Pass, which was a couple weeks before it released on April 1st, there was suddenly a lot of people talking about this game. And I think that has a major effect, and not just with Xbox players, but with the entire community. This game was suddenly getting a lot more recognition, and I think that translates to success on other platforms as well. Now, as to how much success it translates to, I don't really know, but word of mouth definitely is a key factor in a game having success, and I think that Xbox Game Pass definitely played a major part in Outriders having success on not just Xbox, but with Steam and PlayStation, whether that be from word of mouth or by giving it an established user base, and that is something very important for multiplayer-driven games. And that's exactly what Square Enix is pointing out here. They seem to be very happy about Outriders' output in Xbox Game Pass, and that is just excellent news for fans of this service and the future of Xbox Game Pass. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would like to see more AAA games launch into Xbox Game Pass, and with Outriders having so much success, and with Square Enix attributing some of that success to Xbox Game Pass, yeah, that's a good sign for the future. I mean, really, we've already seen Square Enix and Xbox partner up quite a bit here recently when it comes to Xbox Game Pass. I mean, you've gotten games like Dragon Quest, Octopath Traveler, Dragon Quest Builders 2, then of course Outriders. So, you know, who knows? They might decide to launch more of their games into Xbox Game Pass in the future, considering the amount of success they had here. Again, great news for fans of Xbox Game Pass. And I think, once again, this just kind of shows you the power of Xbox Game Pass. Next up, let's talk about a few exciting games that might be coming over to the PC here soon. And this is according to the Epic Data Tracker, which searches for changes and new additions to the Epic Game Store database. And apparently, both an Alan Wake HD Remaster as well as Final Fantasy VII Remake appeared on their back end. Yeah, like I said, both of these are very exciting games, and while we don't exactly have any kind of an official announcement yet, this is a good sign that both of these will be coming to the Epic Game Store here soon. And this technically does bring a little bit of concern, which I will get into that here in a moment, but if you start to think about things, this actually makes a lot of sense. First, let's just go and take a look at Alan Wake HD Remaster. Again, we don't have an official confirmation for this game, but there are some pretty credible rumors out there that Epic Games is publishing an Alan Wake sequel. Very, very excited about that because I loved the first Alan Wake, but with that happening, or supposedly happening, it would make sense for them to also do an Alan Wake HD Remaster ahead of that release. I think that makes perfect sense. So it really wouldn't surprise me at all if we do end up getting an Alan Wake HD Remaster on the Epic Game Store. But as for Final Fantasy VII Remake, we've known for a long time that this is a timed PlayStation exclusive. It was supposed to end, I want to say, in like April 10th of this year or something, but it looks like PlayStation extended the timed exclusive deal with Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate for the PlayStation 5. So as of this moment, Final Fantasy VII Remake hasn't officially been announced for PC or Xbox. I assume it's going to come to Xbox as well, but that's a whole different story. But here we are seeing some real legitimate signs that Final Fantasy VII Remake will officially come to PC as it was previously expected. But this is where the concern comes in. This is being listed on the Epic Game Store, and so far we haven't really heard anything on Steam's end, and there is some speculation that possibly Final Fantasy VII Remake could be a Epic Game Store timed exclusive. We've seen Square Enix partner up with Epic Games in the past with Kingdom Hearts, so we could see something similar with Final Fantasy VII Remake. And if you've been waiting to play this game on Steam specifically, I can see how that's a little irritating to say the least. But I will say this, Square Enix is making a lot of money with these exclusive contracts in the last couple years. They've partnered up with a lot of exclusives, especially on PlayStation's end. But if they're not even making money on the PC side of things with Epic Games, yeah, Square Enix is making a lot of money on these time deals. But nonetheless, this is still very exciting to see possibly an Alan Wake HD remaster coming over to the Epic Game Store, and then possibly Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let's move on over to that poll of the day, though, and I wanted to end this week on your thoughts for E3 2021. So I asked you all, what letter grade would you give E3 2021 in its entirety? And we got some rather mixed results for this one. It doesn't seem like very many of you all just thought this was an absolute blow you away type of an event, with only 7% of you giving it an A, while 34% of you gave it a B, and then 48% with the majority giving it a C. And based off the comments, it basically seems like most of you all felt that Nintendo and Xbox had excellent events, but the third-party publishers were kind of very hit or miss, and yeah, I would kind of agree with that. I think Ubisoft's event was solid, but then you had Capcom and Square Enix. Now, I personally think Capcom, they had some good games there, but there wasn't really anything new and exciting. And then you had Square Enix, which was, yeah, that one was just kind of a major disappointment. But, regardless, I've been watching E3 for a long time, and honestly, that's how it's always kind of been with E3. A lot of these third-party events tends to be very hit or miss. And then you have your big conferences like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, though PlayStation wasn't there this year. But in general, those are the E3 events that you're really going to be excited for. So I didn't view this as a disappointing event in any shape or form. I'd probably give it a B because, again, like you all said, both Xbox and Nintendo did an excellent job this year. They obviously did the heavy lifting, but that really is the case with pretty much every year. And yeah, I think there was just a lot of good games here shown in its entirety. Like I said before, I think that there were some good games shown at the Ubisoft event. I really wasn't expecting much from Ubisoft, but they did have Mario plus Rabbids, which looks really good. There was Far Cry 6, a new Avatar game, and then Rainbow Six Extraction. So they had quite a few games to show there, and I thought it was a fairly solid event. And even though Square Enix event was disappointing, they did at least have Guardians of the Galaxy, which does look really good. So just from them alone, there were some good games. And if you've been following the channel throughout the week, I did highlight some other games that was shown at places like the Future Games Show and the PC Gaming Show. So, just as a whole, I think there's a lot of exciting games coming from multiple publishers across the industry. And especially if you have Xbox or a Nintendo Switch, yeah, there's just a lot of things to look forward to throughout the rest of 2021 and then in 2022. So for that reason, I'm going to give E3 2021 a B. Of course, that's just my opinion, though, and if you really do believe it's a C, I can completely understand that. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.